Welcome to Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. I'm your host, and my name is Art Van Walde. And today we have with us Dr. Justin Smith. He is an associate professor of sociology at Central Michigan University. And we have Dr. Liz Bradshaw. She is an assistant professor of sociology at Central Michigan University. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you.
Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We're here today to talk about an interesting program. And the title of the program is Inside Out Prison Exchange Program. And now our audience is probably wondering, what is that? So who would like to explain what the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program is?
All right. Well, the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program is a program between universities and then correctional facilities. So what we do is we take 15 students who are enrolled in university, and it's a normal class for them, and we meet weekly inside of the correctional facility with 15 people who are incarcerated there. And so we meet together as equals, we sit in a circle. That's really kind of key to the Inside Out philosophy, is sitting as equals, side by side, inside student, outside student, and interacting with one another. And everyone's voices are kind of equally heard, and it's an opportunity for everyone to come together and share some information.
So you have 30 students, 15 from the outside,
Right.
15 from the inside. Let me ask a question, and maybe one of you can answer this, is what is it like for the outside students when they go in for the first time? What's their experience like?
Some fears, but excitement, overall excitement about it too. And then that those high emotions kind of level off a little bit throughout the semester. And once they get to know each other, the beginning of the class includes a lot of icebreakers and getting to know one another. We really try to break down a lot of the barriers from day one. So it's an academic class. Everybody's treated the same in terms of grades and the criteria and the assignments. So that's a crucial part of it. But also a major part of it is dialogue. And so the outside students, while at the beginning they're can have a bunch of concerns perhaps in terms of just not knowing what to expect, that breaks down pretty quickly.
It's always interesting to me that first time when you go in, you go through security check, and then the doors lock behind you and you go in. And that's always an interesting experience for me, to see people's nerves heightened. But then once they're in and they realize that these persons that are in the inside are just like them, those fears subside.
Yeah, so when we're in, we're walking just shoulder to shoulder with inside guys, whether they're in the class or not. And so that's surprising for folks because you have all these stereotypical images of what the inside of a prison looks like, and it's much different. At least the facility that we go into looks quite different than what you see on TV or otherwise. And so that's part of it too, just the sort of visceral experience of it. Yeah.
So what facility are you in?
We are in the Central Michigan Correctional Facility.
St. Louis.
St.
Michigan.
Louis, yeah.
Okay. What started this program? What was the driving focus behind getting this going?
Well, it's actually a national level program that started in 1997 at Temple University. A woman named Lori Pompa had taken in her class just as kind of an opportunity to tour the prison, and they were able to speak to some of the men who were incarcerated there. And at the conclusion of that kind of one-time visit to the facility, one of the men said, it would be great if we could turn this into a class. And from there, Lori Pompa, in collaboration with some men who were incarcerated at Graterford facility in Pennsylvania, they began to kind of form this class. So since that time, there's been, I think, over 500 faculty who have been trained to teach this, instructors, as well as probably thousands of students who have done this. So within Michigan, there's a lot of different schools who have this program. Michigan State University, U of M, let's see, Grand Valley also has an Eastern Michigan University.
Northern Michigan.
Northern Michigan University.
And it's throughout the country, in different countries. I believe there's some in Europe and Australia.
And Canada.
Canada, for sure.
And so we just recently started the program in spring of 2014 at Central Michigan University. So we've since had 2 classes that have gone through that process, and I'll be teaching the 3rd class this fall.
Now, are you teaching different classes, or are you teaching the same class over and over again?
Right now, we're doing the same one over and over again. It's a sociology, sort of an upper-level sociology class. So we're both sociologists, but it can be taught in other disciplines too. So people do English classes, acting, drama classes, health and fitness classes. So it's not just particular to criminal justice or sociology. So people do a range of that. And in terms of why this started, for us personally, at least me, but I think I can speak for both of us. We both were wanting to engage students, both inside and outside. But first talk about the CMU students. We really wanted to engage CMU students with different experiences. So to be honest, you know, after 3-4 years of going through college classes, things can get a little bit, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. And so we wanted a different experience. And that goes for teachers as well. So we start teaching the same classes over and over and over again. We wanted to shake it up a little bit and provide students with another different, very different type of opportunity. So universities really speak a lot about diversity. So we're expanding diversity in a sort of a whole different direction in terms of expanding diversity for those who are incarcerated as well.
Now, you said this is an upper level course. Is this like a 200 level, 300 level course?
Right now, it's being offered as a 300 level course.
Okay. So what are some surprises that have hit you as you've been teaching these courses? And the reason I'm asking that question is I too have taught college level courses in prison, and I've had some interesting experiences. So I'm just curious, what are some of your experiences?
I was really surprised when we first taught the course at how many of the inside students really raised the bar. And they forced a lot of the outside students, the CMU students, to up their game, if you will, to read more. After the first initial meeting, they came back the second week, and a few students, the inside students that came back said, I read the whole book, I took notes, you know, I have all these detailed notes. And many of the CMU students were really taken aback by it. And I was quite surprised myself. I was like, wow, there's a really high level of intellect with the inside students. And that was something that, you know, coming from such intensive, you know, academic university training myself, was really surprised to see all of the street smarts and the life experience that many of the inside students could bring to the classroom.
Okay. Justin, how about you?
Yeah, I would second all of that. And then as well as just how well people sort of form bonds, you know, just on just a personal level. It's a working relationship, it's a professional relationship, but just how well people just get along, and not that I really expected there to be any conflict, but just how well people are able to just have everyday conversations, both inside and outside. So one thing I didn't, and a lot of students don't recognize, is a lot of the inside guys don't know each other. So this is a way for the inside guys to kind of get to know one another also, and they seem to form their own sort of relationships as well, which is kind of good. And then the outside students as well, you know, they get to know each other pretty closely too. They, you know, carpool, and so they form, you know, good professional relationships too. So in a number of different ways, just the variety of conversations and bonds that people develop. And I think that carries beyond the class too. So the class is only 15 weeks.
I was just going to ask how many weeks it is. So it's a 15-week
one
course?
semester.
Okay, one semester. And what is the requirements? What's listed in your syllabus?
So I guess attendance and participation are the really big factors there.
You need to be able to talk.
Yes,
Right.
yep. That's it, because it's based on dialogue. Within, you know, some traditional college courses will have lecture or they'll have videos, and there's not really any of that inside an inside-out class. It's just really based on interaction and dialogue. So that's, I think, the fundamental criteria beyond that. But for the class that we have, we also require weekly reflection papers that both integrate their experiences in the class before, the week before, as well as linking that to the readings they did for that week. So they have to kind of bring those two things together. So there's weekly papers that are involved. There's also a big final paper at the end that kind of, you know, brings together their experience throughout the course. And then there's also a group project, which is a chance for inside and outside students to work together. And the way we've been running it so far is we've come up with program proposals for programs to be implemented within Central Michigan Correctional Facility.
Wow.
So it's the chance for both inside and outside students to work together to problem solve and to come up with innovative solutions that might help people who are incarcerated.
Yep. And yeah, and at the end, those 4 or 5 proposals that are developed are handed to the administration of the facility. And so we hope that they'll read them and reflect on what both inside and outside students are proposing about how we could address at least one perhaps minor problem.
Talk with me about what's the administration's response to this?
They've
What's
been
the
very
feedback?
supportive. For us, we've been lucky. We've been lucky. We've had a lot of support. So we work a lot with the program coordinators inside prisons, but then we also work with the deputy warden and the warden who have been very supportive. So we've been lucky. It's not the case in every state. So Michigan has been very supportive of Inside Out overall. I won't speak for everybody's experience, but we, once again, have been very lucky. And so they facilitate us the meeting time, organizing the space, the time. We have to go and interview the inside students. So we interview 30 students from the inside and only 15 get in. So they, do a lot of the logistical work, which is, crucial. Because they could put a stop to this from the very beginning. And instead, from the very beginning, we've had nothing but support.
And that's interesting you say that, because my experience has been if the administration doesn't support what's going on, the warden and the activities director will stop that program instantly. And so it sounds like you have the backing and the support of the administration.
Yeah, and on the flip side, at CMU, we've had a lot of support.
A lot of
So
support
not
there,
all
too.
universities are open to this either. But
Okay.
our dean, our chair, they've been very supportive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about some of the benefits.
Right.
Benefits for the inside students, benefits for the outside students, and also want to hear a few stories about some life change.
Okay.
So we'll be back in a few minutes, and welcome to our program. And we're just so appreciative of you sharing with us about the Inside Out program.
Stay connected to what's happening at Crossroad Bible Institute with Crossroad Network News. This free magazine is designed to keep you informed and inspired about what Christ Church is doing in prisons and jails. If you'd like a free subscription to Crossroad Network News, fill out the form online by visiting us at cbi.fm.
Welcome back to this episode of Crossroad Connection, and today we have with us Justin Smith and Liz Bradshaw. They're professors at Central Michigan University, and we're talking about the Inside Out program. And I guess I would like to get to talking about stories that develop between the students. And well, let's begin by talking about what are the benefits for the inside students. Can you give me some benefits that you see?
Inside. Like I was talking about before, is just the sort of expanding academic opportunities. And before I was talking about expanding opportunities for outside students, but we do this, of course, for inside students as well. And so we know that there's not as many educational opportunities inside prisons as we'd hope. So this is one way to kind of give access to that, as well as just the sort of more professional relationships too. And then adding their personal and academic experience to the conversations that we have. So, it kind of hopefully builds people's ability to have dialogue when people don't always agree, in a safe space, in a place where people feel comfortable to share their opinion, especially those opinions that maybe not everybody agrees with. So we try to cultivate those conversations and say, hey, even if you feel like you may be the only one with that opinion, be willing to share that. And with inside, of course, a safe environment in terms of, and safe I mean in terms of not being ridiculed, not necessarily like physical safety, just like being able to feel confident to share your opinion and not be
Look down
ridiculed.
on.
Yeah.
What are the requirements for the inside students? When you say you have 30 people that apply and then you only take 15, what kind of criteria are you looking for?
So both the inside and the outside students are held to the same standards of terms of application. They first have to fill out an application that asks them a number of different questions, some of which are are more kind of reflective about their own self, of what values are core to you as a person, and then also some questions about substantive criminal justice issues, or why do you think people commit crime. And it just kind of gets a sense of where people are generally coming from. So both inside and outside students have to submit that application. And then after that, they're selected, and they're kind of, there's a number of different things we consider. I often consider how serious students seem to be, if they appear to be mature and responsible and there for good reasons. And so we kind of narrow that stack down, and then we do interviews from there, face-to-face interviews, and then we kind of ask them similar kinds of questions about their interests in the course and what they hope to gain from it and things like that.
Yeah, we want folks we want a group with a variety of backgrounds, and we'll clearly have that from university students and incarcerated folks, but then also within each group too. So it's not always those students who may seem to be able to elaborate most clearly. We want people, range of different ages perhaps, different educational experiences. So inside students have some experiences with college, but some don't. So we want to make sure we have a diverse group too.
So let me ask, what's the age range that you usually see in your class?
Yeah, so
I would assume that the university student is on the younger end.
no doubt.
Okay.
By a long shot.
So
yeah.
what about the inside student?
So that's kind of I think that's one of my favorite things, my favorite aspects about teaching the Inside Out course, is that you get a much greater range of age and diversity within the classroom. So in a traditional CMU course, like many university courses, it tends to be that 18 to 25-year-old group of people. But what I had noticed in some of the courses that we've taught with the inside students, they tend to be a little bit older. In the first course that we taught together, there was only about probably one, maybe two inside students who were traditionally college aged, and everybody else was a little bit older, probably in their 40s, 50s, and even some in their 60s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but more or less, yeah, late 30s to early 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have quite some, different dynamics. Yeah.
And they're bringing a lot of their life experience
You got it.
to the classroom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, older students do in general in a regular university.
Right.
They tend to be more committed and bring their own experience. So yeah, then you have 10 or 12 individuals who are have more experience. So
Talk to me about some of the benefits for the university, the outside students. I mean, can you articulate some of those benefits?
I think one of a big benefit is many of the students, although we're sociology professors, we teach in the social and criminal justice concentration. So many of our students are interested in pursuing jobs within the criminal justice field. And amongst a lot of people, they don't necessarily get that face-to-face experience with people who are wrapped up in the criminal justice system, and people specifically who are incarcerated. And so giving these people who are going out to be, police officers and working in the court systems and maybe even being corrections officers one day themselves, giving them a chance to interact on a face-to-face level that's not, kind of breaks down some of the hierarchy. It allows them to see the inside students as people. And so I think that's one particular benefit, is it really humanizes people who are incarcerated. And that's true, I think, for even people who aren't going to go into traditional criminal justice fields.
Let's talk about some stories. I'm sure you have stories of students that that have surprised you, or brought a smile to your face, or you saw situations develop. Do you have a story? Either of you have a story you'd like to share? Justin, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So I have stories from inside students, outside students. This one's for an inside student, and from the beginning of the class, he kind of spoke about how he didn't socialize a whole lot inside the facility. He'd been locked up for a number of years, and at that point he just felt like he was waiting out his time, trying not to get into any conflict and doing his own thing, and had conversations with a very small number of people, and said he just really didn't like people at this point in his life, because
he's
he'd
going
been
to be sitting in a
incarcerated.
circle with a bunch of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that he wasn't even super excited about the class to begin with. He had applied because his roommate was applying, so he just did too. And then his roommate didn't get picked for an interview, but he did.
Oh.
And then he went through the interview and he was chosen and he met the criteria. And at the end of the class, he was one of the funniest, most insightful students. And at the end, we have a closing ceremony, and the students themselves, not myself or Liz, they choose 6 students, 3 inside, 3 outside, to stand up and give a sort of closing remarks, and he was one of those 6. And actually, he got the highest number of votes.
Okay.
And so he was sort of the most social student that we had. And so at the end, he really, credited the students in the class, but his fellow students with, basically helping him like people again. And those are his words. I mean, yeah. So that's pretty cool.
So a person that said to you he really didn't like people, didn't like talking much, after 15 weeks says, I like people again.
Right.
That's an amazing success.
Right.
Wow, what a gift that was given to that gentleman. Liz, how about you? Do you have a story that you would like to share?
Well, one story that kind of sticks out to me in terms of a transformation I think that happened for an outside student. There was one woman who, I'd had her in a number of classes before the Inside Out class, and she applied and she was selected and went through the interview and everything, and she had some strong hesitations or reservations. She was very concerned about going into the facility and being around convicted criminals. She had members of her family who worked in corrections and who said, oh, this is a horrible idea, you shouldn't be doing this. And she was very concerned and hesitant and skeptical, but nonetheless she decided to go through with it. And at the end of the course, I mean, you could see this transformation happen over the 15, 16 weeks of the class. You could see her become more invested and starting to care, and her opinions were changing about the inside students. It wasn't just the crime that they had committed, but she was able to kind of see beyond some of those stereotypes to see them as people. And at the end of the class, none of the other outside students came to me to speak about this, but she said, I'm having a very hard time because one of the rules of the course is that once the class is over, contact between inside and outside students must cease. And so there's a lot of pros and cons about this, but this is both a rule by the Michigan Department of Corrections as well as it's an inside-out program rule. So upon starting the class, students know that at the end of the course, there's no more contact that they can have with the inside students. And so this student was struggling with this. She said, I never thought that I'd get to the end of this and really want to continue the relationship with these people, to get to know them and be in contact with them. And it really plagued her and haunted her. It was very difficult for her to have that separation. And she said, there's no way, you could have told me at the beginning of this class that I feel this way, I would have laughed at you. There's no way I would have believed you. And it really, I think, was a personal transformation for her.
Like I was saying, the first couple weeks are a lot of get to know yous, make sure y'all feel comfortable being social, and we don't get a whole lot into the academic work. But then, third week, we get into the books and we start talking about sociology, which is the good part for me. I mean, it's all good, but I like to talk sociology. So first and foremost, I want to say also, this is a sociology class. It's not therapy. It's not us going and helping. It's not them helping us. It's not counseling. It's a sociology class, first and foremost. And that's
It's a college course.
It's a college course. That's the foundation of it. Exactly. We sort of break out when, like Liz was saying, we sit in a circle. And so we kind of just open up for discussion. And that first time we started talking about this book, and it was about the criminal justice system and the war on drugs and prisons, one of the most insightful students overall, and he was an inside student. He went on a 4 or 5 minute
tirade or
discussion. I mean, it was right on. I mean, he broke down the history of all that in 4 or 5 minutes in a very professional way, and I mean, I couldn't have done that good. And so I guess it just showed me how eager he was, and a lot of them were, to have an academic professional conversation, which is so lacking inside of a prison. And so that surprised me in terms of just the eagerness to have that type of conversation. He was just boom, and he was like, out of breath when he was over. And he could have went on for another half hour. Eventually, we kind of have to, let other people get into it. But
For your work there, you've been saying that they can't have any contact with each other after the class is done. Can you explain what's the rationale behind that?
we want to just make sure people feel their privacy is protected too. Yeah.
I think just to kind of build on that.
On both sides,
Mm-hmm.
on both sides, inside and outside, because there have been concerns. Sorry to cut you off. There's been, some issues on both sides. It's not just a one-way street.
I was just going to add that I think sometimes there's also the concern that because of the large male population we have incarcerated in this country, that bringing in young college-age female students, there's this concern that their relationships are going to develop and this kind of a thing. So I think that just to make sure that straightforward that this is a professional academic environment, so that neither side gets the impression that anything's going to continue beyond this. I think that's kind of the extra part of it too.
Before we close, we have just a few minutes left. I guess I'd like to ask each of you, in a few sentences, tell us what this program has done for you personally. So, Liz, can I begin with you? How has this program impacted you personally?
It's impacted me in a number of different ways. I think to begin, it's as a teacher, it's fundamentally changed. It's made me think a lot differently about the way that I teach. I've always been very engaged in dialogue. I don't really lecture in my classrooms. I try to incorporate everybody's perspective, and becoming trained through the Inside Out program, that really enhanced those skills.
Okay.
But on top of that, it's given me an opportunity to work with a population that many people have kind of thrown away or have given up on. And to hear from them what their experiences are, because even we both of us study crime and criminology. A lot of times within the discipline, we don't ever turn to the people who are most affected by that, the people who are going through the system. And so getting to learn from them and their life experience, which so many people just kind of shut out, has been really profound for me.
Justin, how about you?
It's raising the standards. So it's helped me develop my sort of facilitation skills. So we sort of look at our role as facilitating the discussion. So much like Liz, I get sort of tired of having a lecture-based class. I try not to do that, and so in any of my classes. So this class really, and the students, they make sure that the conversation's rolling. Especially, I'll just be honest, especially the inside students. They really want something. So it's really helped me prepare better and make sure I come in well prepared and be on my toes for some unexpected things that might be said in good ways mostly, and just be able to have some, maybe not necessarily answers, but make sure we're prepared to go in the right direction so we can continue the conversation. So it's helped me just prepare my classes better and just be, and hold the standard higher, because they don't want just a fluff class.
Well, Justin and Liz, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
coming
you. Thank you
today.
very
And I specifically want to thank you for speaking out and listening to those who are left unheard. And many times you have discovered that those who are in prison are left unheard. And you are speaking out and you are listening to them and walking alongside of them. And I thank you for the work that you are doing. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for our audience, we're grateful that you joined us for this episode of Crossroad Connection. And until our next episode, I pray that you will see God's blessings and goodness in your life. Have a great day.